There we go.
We're being live streamed to YouTube. Do, 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 do. And away we go with the little tweet. I already had the tweet pre-populated. I already had the stock twat pre-populated. And we can just go. We can just do the damn thing just like that. Hey, it's your boys Bags, GP, and Nick with you with another TA report. We were off last week. I had to attend to some family stuff. All is well. No worries. So we're back here. It's late, obviously, on Sunday, February the 5th, 2023. In the year of the bull market again, GP. It's been one hell of a ride for the past couple weeks, guys, and I would be remiss to not just start out with what in the fuck happened over the past 2 weeks since the last time we talked. It was like I had GP here in Atlanta, and then the market just decided it might want to moon and break out. Coincidence? I think not.
You know, it lined up perfectly with the bullshit. Sorry, pardon the French, but for a year straight, those deep in the money puts that were happening for the January OPEX, they stopped that as soon as the January OPEX passed. Haven't seen it since.
Yep.
And the market has finally released all its energy, and it's my theory to myself, not to the world, I might have said it to a few people, is that I didn't see volume on a lot of these huge outsized moves and names like Netflix and Amazon and all this other stuff compared to the volume that was there when it got bought out. And people talk to me about notional value and all that other stuff, and people were just selling smaller portions. But I was under the full impression that people were still holding their full positions and using options to collect premiums while the dust settles, right? While the Fed does what it does and while the dust settles. And now that the dust settles, coincidentally with exactly those deep in the money puts for January that they were blasting every day for a year plus, actually, I think, started in November, right around when Powell said, stop using the word transitory, pretty much. They basically said, okay, well, now the market's going to digest. We're going to hold on to our positions, but we're going to collect the crap out of these premiums. And they sure did that all of 2022. And it's almost like the Kraken was released on the day after OPEX. So I think it has a lot to do with flow, as I've been talking about for this entire podcast. Flow. And the flow right now is optimistic, right? And
yeah, it was kind of wild. I was still paying attention to what was happening. Made a few trades last week. Our good friend Cookie pointed out, right, that why is it not just a retest? Everybody saw what happened Friday and was like, oh, woe is me. This is a bull trap, but why can't it be a retest? And I don't disagree with that. We did open up futures a little earlier with a little gap down, but it's kind of holding that level. But Friday was a little bit of a shit show. But look how far we had run and how fast it had come, right? So you basically gave back all of Thursday.
I'll give you two names. Your market leader, Apple. What did it do?
Higher.
It did not give a damn. I'll give you a second name.
Give a fuck or a shit.
Give you a second name. Netflix. What did it do? Your bull market leader. It outperformed all your tech it underperformed through the week for sure. It already made its huge move over the last 8 months. So it was consolidating. And on Friday, when the rest of the market found this weakness, it tried to push higher, but market weakness took over. But it was down 99 cents. It was down 0.27 relative strength, if you want to talk about it, in terms of participation.
Yeah,
So
I was getting out of my QQQ puts as a hedge coming out of Thursday's big earnings with Apple and Amazon and Google, and I think somebody said that I wasn't going to come out of that profitable, but I did. But anyway, I don't remember who said that.
yeah, but were you profitable by 9:30, but not by like 11:30?
Yeah, but then it went the other way, and basically what I sold for was what it closed the day at, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of those Maylocks smashing moments, right? When you have 40% gain to open, and all of a sudden it goes completely against the trader, and then ends up the day right around 30%.
Yeah,
I sold quick because again it was just a hedge. But this is what I was looking at. You can see my screen of my longs right here. And the only thing that was damn green was Apple, and then Tesla. Tesla and Netflix also green. And I was just like, how in the shit are the Qs mooning like this right now on Friday? But it was a little bit of a wild ride. So I'd like to see what's gonna go on tomorrow.
For me, it's all about the stuff that's going on outside of these indices to me, right? Like, take a look at what's happening in Nick and I were just talking about this. Look at XLE. To me, that is textbook distribution. It
Barf-a-roni.
It's a frustrating, right? Because it's completely diverged from oil itself. But this also makes sense because right now the names in the XLE, CVX, ExxonMobil, COP, all these ones are still going to be making money at this price level. But ultimately, what is oil telling you? Oil peaked in March of 2021, not December 2022. Sorry, March of 2022, right? And has not seen that high.
Yeah.
So your earnings for these companies might be rock solid. So XLE might not die completely, but it's not going to moon here, right? There's no peak earnings conversation. And if oil continues to drip, this XLE starts to play catch up to your
no pun intended or pun intended.
I mean,
but to me, this looks like distribution. All of 2021, we talked about how I talked about how all of these companies in the tech industry were having monster beats on revenue, on EPS, on everything, yet we were going nowhere.
All right, right? We've riffed for almost 10 minutes now. We got to let our savant, the simp of the energy sector and all things precious metals get in here.
Please. No, I think it's a great short setup. I mean, I want to see that trend line get taken out.
When have you heard Nick say it's a short setup on the XLE or energy? I don't recall it. I just every night I lay my head down to sleep and I hear, get you some gush.
Fair. I'm just saying, if you pull up just the XLE weekly, daily, whatever, we failed at the highs of this, and we're sitting on the trend line within that channel. So basically, if you're looking at this, we put in a lower high.
Yep.
Essentially is what happened. If that 100%. Trend line gets taken out, that's a trend line that's been holding since, the 2020 lows, basically.
You're thinking about short.
Your 20-day, 20-week averages broke.
Yeah, my first target would be 70. I think I would agree with you. It would come real quick if it wants to play catch up, and then I think it's going to find a floor somewhere in the kind of the mid 50s. I think it's going to take a little time if it's going to head lower. I do see why you're talking 30s. I just think there's a lot of.
I will give you. I can go back to every chart, almost every chart except for the crappy names. Almost every chart did a 78.6 retracement of the COVID lows to the COVID highs in 2022. And oil XLE, sorry, in this conversation is similar distribution pattern. So I'm looking at that 78.6 retracement, which is right around 38 to 40.
Oh yeah, yeah, I see exactly what you're. Yeah.
So this to me is where, if this is a long-term distribution cycle and in the energy space, right?
Yeah.
Then when this breaks, and if you remember, hey, do me a favor, Bags,
Yep.
can you pull up the square chart?
I thought we were talking about energy here.
Yeah, we are, but similarities, right? So you see how it made 3 different tops here?
Yeah.
It tried to break out 3 different times. It took over a year to distribute out here.
For sure.
Right. And then once it broke, I don't know when this break is going to happen in XLE because it's been stubborn, right? So I'm waiting for the break as well. And I don't think it's a trend line break. I think it's a moving average break personally. But you see similarities in this chart, right? So once this breaks, the waterfall starts to begin. And that
kind of
first
looks like
leg
this
down,
guy right here. Kind of looks like this guy right here.
but it's still, look, for even for another 5 or 6 weeks, it's still messed around with you, right? So I don't know when it's going to break, right? The question is
That guy.
yeah. So, and if you look at Roku, if you literally look at all of these charts, XLE looks almost exactly the same, right? And Amazon, similar. Literally, you can go across it, and all of them retrace back to their COVID lows. 78.6-ish, undercut, back up, undercut, back up, undercut, but like in that area. So to me, this is kind of where they based in 2020 for XLE. So I can definitely see this coming back to that. I totally see where 50 could be a possibility of where it's holding as well, but that just seems too obvious to me, right? Everyone's going to be looking for that.
Sure.
So that, if it breaks, if oil starts to rise up again, I think XLE can survive it. But right now it looks like distribution. So
our homie Dub C in the chat says, with so many long setups, is it even worth looking for shorts?
I mean, exactly what I had said, prior to us logging on here was I've been looking for, I don't know, an opportunity to work on my short-sided trade. So my intention is to start to build a short position on the break of that trend line, and then probably the break of one of those major moving averages too. Yeah. But I'm going to keep a smaller position size with the intention of seeing if this thing actually does roll, and then I don't care if it grinds lower, however it plays out. I'm just going to keep a position small enough with my stop basically at, I don't know, let's just say 95, or maybe I don't know, in the 90s.
So Nick,
I think
go ahead.
To answer that question as well, to me, it's just the mark of a good eye, right? Like if you're spotting this as a short in a cycle that everyone thinks that's bull, that's where you get paid ultimately, sure. Right? That's essentially where no one's expecting it and you're ahead of the curve, right? Like, and so your risk to reward increases on those types of setups. And in so many long setups, everyone's looking for the long, so they're looking for the pullbacks, they're looking for that. So it's more of a grind. Whereas when the bottom falls out of these types of plays, the bottom really falls out, right? People are like, oh, gonna cut that quick.
Hey Nick, you've been our gold boy.
Yeah, I still have the GLD. I would like to see if it holds the 50-day. I think that's probably a good line in the sand. I got stopped out basically at market open on the break of the 20-day. So I don't know. It basically, it hit its measured move, which was basically right here at 180.
Yep.
I wouldn't say it's in a spot to enter necessarily.
No,
I'm not necessarily looking. I'm not in the same camp Like as far as like how I feel about the XLE, if that's where you're going.
I got no, just you pay attention to it more than I do. I
Yeah.
was asked this week on Charts for Charity to look at the miners GDX, and boy, it doesn't look
Yeah.
good to me. Like
That was some rough
it's
volume on
holding
Thursday,
it's
Friday.
holding the moving averages right now. But yeah, that move on the daily on Friday, that
Yeah,
doesn't give you that doesn't have you brimming full of confidence on that type of move.
No, for sure. Heavy volume too on both
Yeah.
Thursday and Friday.
Warning
So that's-
shots. It
Yeah.
looks very similar to November 11th and 12th. Sorry, November 2nd and 3rd. It feels like a warning shot. I think this still has. I think ultimately it goes higher. But as I've always said, Nick, this is such a frustrating thing to trade.
Yep.
Wait for the all-time high to break, and then you'll be able to ride this without much issue. That's my, like, looking at the gold chart for the last 50 years. Wait for it to break. It is a miserable trading instrument, whatever you want to call it. It is terrible.
All right,
And-
Nick. Since you know the trades that you've been in, the only thing we haven't mentioned is solar, and
I got nothing left.
you got nothing left in solar. So what
No.
about your biotech?
Yeah, I have a handful.
You want to look at that
TXG has been-
COLL chart? That one looks amazing.
COLL. I don't even know what the hell that is.
Look at the weekly on this
Collegium.
thing.
Holy
This bad
shit, that
boy.
is pretty. Wow.
Look at the monthly. Oh, just keep going.
I have that on my watch list. Thank you.
It's not like a large mover by any means. It's been sideways for many, many years. I think they were involved in like the opioid scandal or something like that from back in the day. I believe. I don't know much about it. I don't really look into pharmaceuticals. That chart just looks absolutely.
Well, before we get into the biotechs, Nick, what are you bullish on? Because that's been your
Sure.
four plays over the past, I don't know, year and a half.
I did grab some ALGM. And I've
Ooh,
also been
beauty.
keeping an eye on, oddly, fucking Uber. I like how Uber looks. In
Yeah.
terms of what I'm actually looking at right now.
It's breaking out.
I think pretty much everything that has been more or less kind of basing over the last, let's just say 6 months to a year. Like I think it's really starting to feel like they're going, stage 1, stage 2. So I think there's a lot of similar looks out there to the Uber chart is kind of where I was going with that.
Uber had a ton of flow
Yeah.
on the
September
option side
flow, all
too.
kinds of
Yeah.
stuff.
So
Shop ball 5.
Shop, I saw someone mention that and I forgot to take a look at. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shop's determined to make me say we are going to go back to all-time highs again, bags.
So are we going to get some backfilling here? I mean, the McClellan, from what I'm looking at, is working off an overbought reading. Are you guys in the camp that we're going to just do a little bit of backfilling here and then ultimately head higher, or where are you guys at?
Something specific or just general?
Like, I'm just saying, nothing specific. I think indexes.
I think everything right now is going to be a retest. I put
like
my
SPY
thought.
400.
It could come from maybe a little bit lower than that, but you look at the small caps. Small caps are breaking out. They're taking out everything. You look at biotech, right? And this is where I was going to take the conversation earlier. XBI is breaking out, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got all these things that line up. Well, maybe maybe the Qs have already broken out too, right? And then you got SPY, who, once you get above 415, I think it's like Katie bar the door. What is there to hold back? What is there to backfill? So, I mean, if we came back in and maybe, I don't know, tested last week's lows one time, I think it could be just a, retest and go, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't
we
know.
just,
I'll ask. I'll pose that to GP. He's been our resident bull for the past year.
6 months. No, sorry, 7 or 8 months, right? Like, so let's be real. We talked about Netflix in January and it played out exactly.
GP is entering the third trimester of being a bull.
Yes. And I'm perfectly comfortable. There was a moment where I was doubting myself, no doubt, with especially how December ended and stuff like that. It was quite frustrating to watch it happen, but my theory was that January OPEX was going to let the leash go, and that's exactly what happened. I as a bull, I prayed that it would happen earlier, but they weren't going to let such an easy trade go, right, without a fight. So to me, we've spent what was it? Let's take a look at shop on a daily, right? If you
Okay,
can pull that up.
I will definitely pull that up.
All right, so shop, for example, on the daily, go back to when it broke down and then it started basing. So beginning of last year, or May of last year, right? So like that was the big breakdown, and that's been basing. And we're now right back kind of in that zone for shop. So you've had how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-ish moves to the top of the rectangle and right back down over the last 6 to 8 months. So I'm under the impression that we don't really, it's going to be shallow, right? We basically destroyed everyone's confidence here, right? So no one is going to rush out buying, and then they're going to continue seeing it go higher, and then you will have the chase on, and that's when we'll get the pullback, right? I don't think it's here yet, but we'll have to see.
When's Mercury retrograde?
I'm thinking we had this kind of similar pattern in 2020, right? If you're thinking about it from a flow perspective, which is what I've been doing recently, and I hate it, but kind of have to with daily options and all that stuff, is that COVID was around before the market decided to panic and die, right? It wasn't until February OPEX passed. It was literally the Monday after February OPEX died where the market just said, F you, I die, right? We are in a similar kind of cycle here that we're pushing from one OPEX into the other OPEX. So I think this pushes with shallow pullbacks into February OPEX, and then we're gonna have to see how kind of things play out with, especially where with VIX is sitting and stuff, and now people are starting to reaccumulate shares that they busted out of in the middle of last year, right? In the capitulation kind of 3 or 4 days of May. Do you remember those? Or June, whatever that was?
Yeah.
It was, the market was down 12% in 3 days or something like that. It was that sentiment capitulation, it was that volume capitulation, it was all of that together, and then we've been basing ever since then. I think people are now starting to accumulate shares, so they actually have things to protect, right? So I think the VIX starts to spike here, and then post Feb OPEX, you start to see you start to see a backfill or back test of the breakout that's happening here. So it's going to feel real dirty, in my opinion.
Speaking of the VIX, everybody likes to point at the VIX until the VIX isn't doing what they think it should be doing, right? And then they kind of ignored the VIX, I feel like. I mean, the VIX has done nothing but break down for months here, basically. And while the market may have been red on Friday, so is the VIX, right? The VIX ain't telling no lies these days. Like, volatility is down, the fear index is down. But I wanted to bring up one thing, and this was something that we had chatted about a little bit, GP, was we kind of liked China, right? And if Netflix and China are leading the way, is this your entry into the K-Web or the what is it, FXI, or like is this
I'd
is
buy
this your
it.
time to enter China?
I'd buy it in the high 20s.
Yeah, I like China here, and I love the monthly kind of big picture view on it. I posted the chart on StockTwits. It literally tagged the 2016 lows and then reversed immediately higher the next month, which is always a good sign of strength, right? It's a false breakdown to a fast breakout, and it went from, if you're looking at K-Web, what did it go from? It went from 17 to 40 nearly, and got rejected last month at the 20-month moving average.
I
It
mean,
went from
109% gain in what, 3, 6, 12 weeks. That's pretty good.
yeah. So I
Pretty
think
good.
you're getting that consolidation that's been necessary in this for a little while. I like this because of just the chart setup in general. You always have the unpredictableness of China, but they're starting to reopen. Their monetary policy is easy, right? Like, there's a lot of things that say they're where we were 2 years ago or 3 years ago now.
I kind of pivoted my mind when Cookie, this is another name drop on Cookie. He never asked anyone else to chart shit, but he asked me what I thought about yen, which is the 3 times leveraged. And I just ran the old, bars ghost pattern over top of it. And I mean, it's not too far off really from what's happening. So maybe a couple more weeks and it wants to try to break back into the channel that it was riding in forever. Anyway, so I'm kind of looking at that trade. I also got into, come full circle back to the biotech. I got in Labu 2 weeks ago for the old XBI.
Yeah,
I just think there's too many things that are flashing risk on right now. I mean,
can we talk about those things?
Yeah.
Okay, first one, take a look at XLF. Pull up the monthly chart of XLF.
I was gonna say I liked how banks looked, like
Break it
Goldman
out.
and JP Morgan.
This is the month. Go to the monthly. You have a 13-year break and retest and hold and flag and now breaking through. Just saying, like, you can be bearish all you want, but this is what's happening on the chart, right?
Yep.
You literally 2008 to 2021, we did absolutely jack nonsense. 22, we came back and retested that jack nonsense, and now we're breaking higher. And you have what Common King, Kyle, has quite often referred to as a monthly hot dog pattern, right? You have the 2 green bars and the red bar sandwich in between. So typically this resolves higher. I really like what the banks are doing. This is the conversation of a retest of 2 years of pull forward demand, right, in the markets.
Mm-hmm.
And it's now breaking higher, right? So that's the first one for me. Second one is look at what XLU is doing. This is the defensive sector that got people through all of 2022.
It is shitty.
Right? This is the sector, And then if you look at names underneath like Waste Management, if you look at LMT, if you look at a lot
Former
of these-
market leader Waste Management, put some respect on the green truck's name.
right, and what's it doing?
Breaking down.
Yeah, okay. And dividend is 1.72%. You can get 4% in a bank account right now. Why are you going to be in a market macro environment? Why are you going to be long waste management when you can have a risk-free return of 4% in a bank?
You're not. You shouldn't.
Right? If your recession theory is coming true.
This is not financial advice.
But if your recession theory is coming true, then this doesn't make sense to me. Why would you want to risk anything here? What if waste management comes out with some fraud and you lose 30, 40, 50% or something like that, right?
The home builders.
Yep.
It looks like a breakout.
Yeah.
XLP is the other one.
I thought the home builder, nobody wanted to be in real estate, like or homes. Like, you're stupid.
And another one.
Oh my gosh, look at that moving like Toll Brothers. Ooh,
Yep. Oh, it's pretty good.
damn.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
What banks do you like, GP? Or you just go with XLF?
Look at OFG.
OFG, old fucking guy.
Yeah.
damn.
Oh, that to
That is
me.
that is tight like Nat Booty right there. That is something to behold.
Do you own this?
I just saw it over the weekend. I'm like,
Oh,
what
right
the
on.
hell?
Yeah, no doubt.
I didn't even know it was a bank until Saturday.
Wow. That looks explosive.
So I hear you. I hear the macro environment. I can see that it could all just be a false kind of move, but there are a lot of things saying you an idiot for being bearish, but okay.
Who is OFG Bank?
In
San Juan,
2022,
Puerto
a lot of
Rico.
us were humbled, right? A lot of us were humbled on all these types of moves and the constant death and stuff like that. So I'm never going to say that it couldn't fail. It's possible that it could fail, but I'm in the mindset that this is a look for your dips and your opportunities to buy, to be long for the bigger breakout.
Now listen, if a Puerto Rican bank is going to break out, holy shit.
I thought you'd enjoy that one.
Wow. That's a huge range box there.
And I believe it closed at the highest it's ever closed, by the way.
I was expecting, like, I don't know,
Yeah, I don't know what
fucking Goldman or Morgan Stanley, something. I wasn't expecting OFG. I wasn't expecting an old fucking guy over here.
Wells Fargo. I mean, I hate Wells Fargo.
But aren't these the names that you want to be long? Because everyone's long Goldman and everyone's long JP Morgan. These are the types of names that you want to be long that no one's paying attention to. Until today, I don't think anyone has even heard of OFG, right? That's maybe some people have, but the reality is most people haven't.
How many shares does that fucking trade?
Man, AI has been ripping.
Yeah, this is all the meme.
250.
Is that what
1,000.
AI is? Is it AI
Yeah.
is a meme thing? Oh, that's dumb.
It's a high short interest, right? So like right now AI is hot with Chat GPT.
Sure.
So
WKR,
this is remember like when names used to add in blockchain to their.
That's a breakout.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hot right there. IBKR, Interactive Brokers. Sorry, we're talking about AI now. Yeah. You got C3 AI, you got UiPath. Path. I was a day late on that bitch right there. That was a move on Wednesday there.
The big old bar.
So do you remember talking about this in, I think it was October, right? You had some of the worst earnings, right? And let's say that this January earnings got worse for a lot of these big tech companies, and you had some of the worst earnings in January, and the Qs didn't break down, right? They actually maintained where they were maintaining, and now you're starting to see names, and I don't know if it's going to be the Amazons of the world or the Googles of the world that are going to be the ones that are going to be leading the next charge. It doesn't necessarily feel that way to me, but this market is, to me, setting up for the bigger move higher, right? And it's gonna, there's a lot of dead bodies underneath, right? Or
Yeah.
overhead or whatever. So you're gonna find resistance
Everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like Mount Everest, they're everywhere.
Yeah. But like that, to me, this market looks great, and we can gap down 6,000 points tomorrow, and I could be wrong. I'm not saying that any of that can't happen, but as of now, everything that looks like it should is like, you have rotation from defensive sectors, from energy sectors, from consumer XLP, right? Consumer discretionary. Is it discretionary? No.
No,
Staples, sorry,
that's,
consumer staples.
Oh yeah.
Consumer
Discretionary
staples.
is XOY.
All the names where people have been hiding for the last 12 to 14 months are now starting to edge down, right? And all the names that have been getting death blow after death blow after death blow, they're starting to edge up. So what does that say? People are covering their shorts for the interim as how it starts, and then people start to get long with the money they've made over the last 12 to 14 months on their shorts, right?
We've we've danced around this for a couple weeks now, but if you've got biotech and small caps and semiconductors, what I'm highlighting right now, if that's leading your, if those three things are leading, chances are you're in a bull market.
Yep. And then you add in Netflix and Apple. Woo.
Apple had quite the
Chances
day
are.
on Friday.
And I posted.
Oh, when you look at the Apple monthly, it really looks like just if you draw a trend line, kind of from basically the 2020 lows, and you kind of connect to the March 2022 lows, the break that we had, a couple months ago almost looks like just like a kind of a false breakdown is, what it looking like, to where, I mean, it looks very kind of, head and shoulders toppy, right? And so all of a sudden we had a false breakdown. This thing rips higher. Like where is this thing going next? 300?
180.
I think Apple probably underperforms, my personal opinion, over the next 6 to 12 months. That's my personal opinion.
Maybe.
They're doing perfectly fine. They're still caking lots of money. They're not pushing higher.
What do you
China
think
could be the X factor for Apple.
Sure. Okay.
That China coming back online leads to a lot more iPhone sales and stuff like that. Apple's already pretty richly valued. It's been holding the line for the rest of the market. So I think it continues to hold the line. And I think you see other names start to see rotation, the ones that have been beaten up a lot. So I think it underperforms personally, but that's just my opinion.
I like to pat myself on the back sometimes and just show how pretty that apple cart was.
Yeah.
But there's no real distribution in Apple, right? Like no one's selling Apple. They're a cash cow, right? So until ultimately they show a big fall, like if they show declining iPhone sales next quarter as well, then you can assume that Apple's going to get smoked, right? People are going to come out of their positions. Right now they are able to blame supply issues, but they can't blame it for another quarter.
Here's a bank for you, GP, a little SoFi. There you go.
I just don't trust it.
You got me thinking about banks now, though. I didn't expect to be having my mind on banks at 10:30 at night Eastern time, to be honest with you.
Look at IYT, Dow Transport, right?
Yeah,
People
yeah,
believe
yeah.
in
You
Dow
know I
Transport.
love that.
Like if you're a Dow Transport theory believer, what
Toot,
are you still doing short?
toot. Yeah, toot toot, motherfucker.
Like, what are you still doing short? Because if this is how bull markets start and they lead, then what is this telling you?
I don't know, but we've given about 11 reasons for people to not be bearish tonight, which is a nice change up for me.
And like we talk about inflation, right? Look at what Nat Gas is doing.
Don't talk about nat gas with me.
There's not a single buyer to be found.
Fell off everything.
Right?
I hopped in just to see if I could get a reversion of the mean trade. Nope.
No, but there's literally like look at those weekly bars. Break prior week, break prior week, break prior week.
Straight to hell.
Yeah. And so now we're here. If we don't break prior week this week, this sets up a potential trade for the long side, right? After this destruction. But I want to see volatility. I want to see it get wild, right? I want to see it make 20, 10, 15, 20% moves up and down over the next couple of weeks.
You want to see it go down there to like $1.70.
I would love to see it go negative because I'm going to load the goddamn boat. But I don't think that happens. I just think from a technical perspective, we keep breaking prior week's lows, and until we start to see that change, there's really not any point of getting long this. But this is one of the inflation measures, right? It's down 70% in 3 months. Do you remember the Euro crypto winter?
It's just bad. It's just bad. Bad news.
And you know the best part about like a lot of this other stuff is like the conversations. I'll go back to oil, right, as well. Like Oxy is one of that just makes me laugh, right? Because everyone's like, "Oh, Papa Buffett has your back," and maybe he does. Maybe he sees that it could dip down to somewhere else where he could buy cheaper, so he's not going to run for it here. But
I'd
Oxy doesn't
say
look great.
I could see him stepping in like the 40s.
Yeah, he's already long, right? Cookie's talked about this in his when he does his interviews with you or your podcast with you. He's like, if you're gonna buy, let's say $10,000 worth of Oxy, don't buy 3,000 at 60 and then buy another 3,000 at 59 and then buy another 3,000 at 58.
Yeah, right.
Right? Buy it at 60 and then wait for your next leg. If that's in the 50s, then buy it there. And then if it goes to the 40s, then buy it there. Right? That's the people take these 5-10% dips and they're like, cool, now I've wasted all my cash and I can't average down further because they're like, oh, Papa Buffett's going to step in because he stepped in at 60, so he's going to be saved. And then 60 breaks and 50 comes and then 40 comes and then you're like, oh crap, what do I do?
Yeah, Dub C, he had we're talking about Oxy and Buffett. He had what was it, the option on contracts when Chevron he kept Chevron from buying them, I guess, or I forgot who it was, but Oxy stayed afloat because they basically gave a huge position of the company to Buffett. But I thought he traded out of some of those, or maybe they converted to shares, but I know he had been buying it for a few quarters now. One name that we haven't talked about, Jason P, ask about Tesla. Does Tesla continue? We always like to talk about Tesla. It's so pleasant to talk about Papa Elon.
I think you know where Nick and I stand on Tesla. You buy dips when you get them like this, right?
Yep.
Like that's just, it's literally, it's max pain for bears, it's max pain for bulls out, all in short time frames. Whether there's a time frame 6 months, 12 months, whatever. But the long term trajectory of what he's building and what he's doing and his pricing power being market leader, they make so much margin. They could still drop their car prices by another 10 grand and literally put almost every car. I believe the Model Y was the number 2 selling car, not EV car, in the States last year in 2022. After Toyota. Over a gas car, over any car, Model Y was the second leading car in the US itself. And they have pricing power, they have efficient, like the best product on the market. Yes, their build quality isn't great, but ultimately it's range that people care about. The last thing you want to do is drive and have to charge every 45 minutes.
I mean, look at the volume that has come in. It
It's
is
nuts.
all. I was gonna say all year, but it has been all year.
Yeah, but that's like, it's growing. It's one
Yeah.
of the few $100 billion companies and greater that's growing at such a rapid rate, and they have so many tools in their treasure chest to just continue to pull that leverage button at any point in time. And they have so many ancillary businesses that I don't know why people don't see it, right? Like I'm always dumbfounded. I've been dumbfounded since 2014. So I like, everyone keeps calling for fraud, keeps calling for Elon's a douche, and Elon's a douche. I get it. There's no argument there.
But do you get it though? How big of a douche he is?
I don't care, dude.
I know.
Right?
I
Like,
know.
literally, if Bill Gates, we've talked about this before. Bill Gates was the ultimate douche. No one talks about Bill Gates now because of his foundation, but you see it come out when he's talking about the vaccine stuff now. He's a total D-bag, right?
Mhm.
And he continues to be, and greatness requires you to be different. And I'm not saying Elon is greatness, but to be the best amongst your peers.
I think we're all in agreement on the long term, and this is not financial advice. And I don't know what we're talking about, Jason, as far as will the rebound continue? But I've seen wilder trades than, I might be interested in puts like in that 190, 200 area. It could absolutely bust up to like 207 here, but
the 200 day, right? Mean reversion to the
Yeah.
200 day, right? So
yeah,
that's technical, and yes, those are all trades that can happen in general. But if you weren't buying in one at the 122s, I don't know what the hell you were smoking, right? Like literally, they literally could have painted a
well,
sign
Nick
that
was
says,
waiting on 100. I specifically remember that conversation, and I think you said, GP, not gonna happen. You're not gonna get 100. It's not gonna be clean. It's not gonna get 100, and didn't.
yeah,
So
it got close
ha
enough.
ha ha. That's on you.
It got close enough, right? Like
Yeah.
Nick won that one, 101. I didn't, but after it tagged that, it literally spent 8 to 9 days at 122 on massive volume, right?
Yeah,
Like
ripped
it
out of
was,
there.
it was basically, the chart could have come out and smacked you in the face that you should be buying this.
I mean, look at the volume, stupid. Like
And
that's
they
one of
were
the highest
so
volume since.
I mean, this is kind of where we should see kind of Tesla doing its backfill here, though, too, like near term. I think your
160,
opportunity,
right? 160s, I would say.
yeah. I mean, the 20 days curling under still sitting down at 140, and the 50 days right there at 150. I think you get an opportunity at like the mid 150s. You might get like 154.
Yeah, you know, if you look at longer term chart patterns of Tesla when it does this, kind of like, hey, we're growing at some ridiculous rate, but we're still going to give you an 80% discount on the stock. Why
Right.
not? Right? Like it, in almost all those scenarios that I've looked at, it's literally gone on absolute tear to a point that most people can't imagine, just like they couldn't imagine it hitting 100 here. And then come back and retested that whole thing. And then the bigger move starts. So I'm not too worried. I assume that in the near future, 6 to 18 months, that it will get 122 will get retested.
I mean, WC says knows how Musk's personality becomes the topic of conversation when the stock is breaking down. Then it's all crickets in January. For the record, I was tired of his shit for a long time. And I was out of this bitch in July, August, something like that. But
Dude, I 9 years of holding his stock. I can't. I'm always tired of his nonsense because he does this all the time.
yeah, no, he's just talking about people flapping their lips,
Yeah,
and complaining about him, and yeah, there's some truth to that.
Isn't Jim Chanos max short again? That should be your automatic signal to buy a lot.
Is he?
Yeah, something like that.
I know he said he was saying something about bull euphoria or something. I don't know. I'll have to dig up that quote another time. But yeah, Chanos sounded awful bullish from what I was reading.
Oh.
Anyway, not just on Tesla, but on the market as a whole.
I think in general, like, you have a lot of things screaming that people have talked about the breath, right? When breath happens like that, I'd like to see other sectors and other things and what they're doing, right? Because I was told a long time ago that there's only so much money in the markets. So you will constantly see rotation, right? So let's say there's only $5 trillion in the market. That money is only going to move from one area to another. It's not coming out of the market. So where is it moving from? So what you saw weeks ago, back in like October, November, is the lack of strength in XLE, in XLU, in XLP. So like it was all kind of setting up for what I didn't think this was going to happen in 2 weeks, what just happened. But the market always surprises you from all sides. But it was already showing you that the breadth to the downside just wasn't there. And the other things were rotating down, right? Things weren't breaking. There was just stuff like all of 2022, for the most part, every stock tended to break, every tech stock at least tended to break the prior week's lows the next week, right? Or it would make an inside week and then break the following week after that. And that was the entire pattern. And over the last like 6 to 8 weeks, that has not been happening.
All
so
right.
It's up to you on where you think the market's going, but a lot of things are screaming, look for pullbacks to get long.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
That's the camp I'm in for sure.
Yeah, it's miserable bear thesis, right? Like, I want it to be lower, and it's never going to be lower. You missed it, you fuckers. Hey, we've done okay the last few pods when we did what you're looking at this week. I've done especially well, not to brag too much, but what are you looking at this week for some gains, Nicholas?
I'm still on Uber. Yeah, and then in terms of on the long side, on the short side, I'll, like we kind of discussed, XLE and AMZN. Yeah.
All right.
Are we doing one or two?
You can do as many as you want to do, GP.
First one is FSLR.
To the upside?
To the upside.
That's like a chili dog.
It is look like a chili dog, but that's just beautiful, right? That's just a nice tight high flag near the 2008 pivot, right? Like that's just gorgeous to me. You also have the end phase earnings coming out, so you could see that being the catalyst to break out here. And end phase looks decent as well, even though it's been in a downtrend. Going into
solars for GP.
Yeah. So I like First Solar, not necessarily Enphase, but I like First Solar here for an upside move. And then I also, I'm looking at some areas that are kind of in between, like Baba. I'm looking for Baba at 105. If we get that 105 and we start seeing buying, it basically fills that gap and you start to see buying. I think that's going to be a decent trade to maybe
Yeah.
focus on. I also like Netflix, right? Like I thought Netflix was going to do it Friday and
You're
then
not allowed to pick Netflix.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll give you another one.
No, you can talk about it, but you're not allowed to pick Netflix.
There's a lot of people calling for Netflix's end of the world, right? And
Yeah.
it's too much, it's too quick. Price is where it was when EPS was half, right? 5 years ago. They're forecasting revenue growth of 8 to 10%, and they're forecasting EPS 20% growth, $3 billion in cash flow. They are re-accelerating revenue. But what I like about this chart is just the monthly MACD cross has in the past for Netflix resulted in big monthly candles. So when you have this curl on the monthly MACD, it is, I don't think you have it on here, but
No, I don't. I'm looking at
it cleared
the monthly's getting ready to be above all of its EMAs, which is quite impressive considering where it was at.
And you have it cleared the 200 EMA on the weekly. It's sitting about 40 points below the 200 SMA. It's in a congestion zone, so definitely can see it still languishing for a while. I still think it breaks out in right before April earnings or right after April earnings, because Netflix doesn't do anything in between earnings usually. But this is one I'd be watching for. I think this has the possibility to fill the gap to the upside at 510 before the next earnings if it really wants to move. But
510.
yeah, that's where it gapped down in January.
Yeah. I'm just
So
yeah.
and Netflix is not known to have these small candle type moves, right? Like when it breaks out, it breaks out. Is that October? Look at that weekly candle in October, right?
Yeah, that was earnings.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's always earnings. So I don't know if it will. I think it's still April earnings where it actually breaks out, and it could just kind of sideways consolidate and do all this stuff. But I like this for here because if it breaks over the monthly pivot, which is 369.02, I believe, you have a decent runway to about 406, which is the 200-week SMA.
You were going to say one other thing after I said you can't talk about Netflix, and then you went on to talk about Netflix.
Oh, you're asking me if I had more. I have like 700 names that I can give you.
No, you don't have to give us 700.
Peloton. My God.
Really? I haven't looked at that chart in
Yeah,
God
neither.
knows how long.
Look at that mofo weekly. Look at that. Look at that. This is going to 34 before you can blink.
That looks pretty strong. Wow. Peloton, huh?
That's on earnings. So basically they proved themselves and people are saying, cool, I'm rewarding you by buying your stock. And I'm breaking you out of the base in this moment as well. I'm also ready to party. Right? And that was a monster move.
Look at that volume just pour in.
Yeah. So
wow. What's so chewy up there? You bring up Peloton.
Same.
Yeah, that looks good.
Wow.
Oh, Michael Burry stock. Can't forget that one.
Which one is that? I forgot.
Geo,
that's right. Flagging.
Oh, so pretty. Look at the monthly. Look at the monthly on that.
Flagging.
Banging.
Damn.
Flagging. He deleted his Twitter again, though.
No, he's back.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah.
I am on such a social media purge. I feel so disconnected from the world.
What a fuck he is, though.
Yeah. Nick is probably better
Um,
that way.
Yeah, I'm gonna get back on soon.
I'll give you a long and a short again. For my long, man, I'm kind of torn in a couple different ways. But I think I got to go with semis. And if you want a specific name, I think Nvidia just looks fucking awesome still. Surprise, surprise. But
They're on that AI train, right?
yeah, but if you want to go something that got a little beat up, Qualcomm, mixed quarter, but still looks great to me. I think I'd be interested. I'm interested on that pullback. I almost pulled the trigger on some shares on Friday, but I didn't.
Keep an eye on GFS because they have earnings
Yeah.
this week.
That's a good one too. There, GFS, Global Foundries. And the short, I'm gonna keep saying take it to fucking zero for a while, and that's our good healthcare XLV. Just don't like it, haven't liked it. It's been rolling over. Outside of energy, this is my least favorite place to fish.
Ooh, I gotta add that.
That doesn't look great. Can still go lower. There you go. Dum. Guys, we wrapped up an hour again.
Are we still live?
We are still live. We're still fucking
So
live.
I don't know, like he doesn't know me at all, but I don't know if you guys follow Chem Carson, the croissant, on Twitter at all.
No.
But really sad news today. He just mentioned that his wife of 13 years at the age of 44 passed away on
Oh my
Thursday.
God.
For a guy who gives a lot, I just wanted to give him a shout out that even though that people may not know you, they're still thinking about you.
Yeah, man. Rest in power. Sorry to hear that.
It's always humbling news. So
Yeah.
life is short.
Life is short. Be with your loved ones. That's what I did last week. I was with my mom. So I was with my mom. Everything's fine. The Bags family's good. But yeah, love the people you love and love you, right? And be with them, spend time with them. Always hate to hear bad news. I know Nick was shredding some pow with his family, so I always love to hear people with their family and enjoying the time. Like I enjoy the time with my two amigos here. But guys, I know I say it every time we sign off, but I can't thank y'all enough for taking the hour out of your week to just talk shit and talk shop. It's the shit's mostly directed at Nick. Sometimes GP and I throw it at each other, but it's all love. I appreciate it.
I feel it. I feel your love for me.
I do, Nick. I do. I'd kiss you right in the mouth if you were here.
I believe it.
All right, then.
A little beard on beard action.
Right on.
But thanks, guys. Thanks for, we had quite a few people watching tonight, so appreciate y'all tuning in. And we know it's late, but wanted to get it in before the week started since we didn't do anything last week. But as always, we thank you for being here, and